So good morning, good afternoon. This is TAM Lab 77 as part of the EMEA TAM Labs. And today we've got using design thinking to help your customers. Today we've got Karin Brunotte, who's a senior TAM in Germany, and Simon Conyard, who's a senior TAM in the UK. Both are German speakers, so guten Morgen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So obviously, design thinking is not just about designing IT architecture, it's about understanding your customers' needs. Design thinking is going to provide methods and conversation tools that you can use for holding brainstorming sessions with your customers. And now over to you, Karin. Thank you. I'll stop sharing.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to share my screen now. So yes, thank you very much. My name is Karin Brunotte. Some of you already know me. I'm with VMware now since 10 years and almost 6 years in the role as a technical account manager. So as James already said, today's presentation covers the topic design thinking. So design thinking is not about designing architecture. It's actually about designing the process of thinking and how to keep more awareness of the customer's mindset. So yeah, with having that said, we'll just jump over to the agenda. So it's going to cover the customer's challenges. So what challenges are the customers facing right now? What is their mindset all about? How is design thinking actually working? And how can design thinking help us as technical account managers to getting in a more creative communication with our customers? So as everyone knows, today's world is being dominated by change. Every one of you can remember the last months and weeks with Corona. So we all had to struggle with that new situation. And suddenly IT became or changed their perception from being commodity into suddenly being something that keeps the world go round. And the pace of change has never been this fast, yet it will never be this slow again. That is a very true sentence from the Prime Minister of Canada, Trudeau. And what does that actually mean for us? So the momentum that IT has currently now has never been so huge. And for us as a software company, this means a lot of opportunity all around this change. A lot of opportunity to show our customers how they can solve their issues that they're facing currently, how they can actually cope with all the change and the struggles around Corona. And also we're having a lot of solutions around helping the customers to manage and to improve their environment. However, even this situation for us now being a good or a great opportunity for our customer, that still means that their whole world is still very volatile, being even more uncertain than before now with Corona, being even more complex with all that solution that the software companies out there provide, and being even more ambiguous. So it's our job as a TAM actually to try to step with our customers' shoes and to have a little bit a better understanding about their challenges. So what I've noticed talking to a customer, especially the last month and weeks, is that customers fear a permanent lack of knowledge. So they notice that our world, our solutions are evolving so quick, and that they're on the one side have to cope with their daily operations, which has now actually changed due to all the way they work. Everything has changed totally. They're not all of them at the office anymore. They have to work remotely. They still have to continue keeping up with the discussions, and they feel under pressure. They're currently having really stress in solving all these challenges. So on the one hand, they have to adapt to the new situation. On the other hand, IT is evolving, our solutions are always being updated. We have new features, new functionalities they actually have to be aware of. And the question that we as TAMs, as technical account managers, have to ask ourselves is, are we able to fill this knowledge gap, to be able to help our customers and keeping them up to date? And are we able to make our customers feel secure in making the decisions they have to make for the future? So thinking about that, I have also noticed that our customers are being, or the team members of our customers are being divided into two types of groups. We have on the one hand the digital natives, sometimes the younger ones, but also the ones that maybe grew up in IT, that studied IT, that are dealing with a challenge of change and all the new technologies since the day one they started with their career. And then on the other hand, we still have the so-called golden ages, maybe the ones that did something differently before they actually changed into the role as maybe IT managers or IT team members. So we as a TAM, we have to ask ourselves, do we have the capacity to see these differences? Do we have the capacity to see that there is this kind of split happening at the customer side? And then we have to take care of the ones that might be left behind, so that we have to incorporate those ones, because we always tend to talk to the ones that like our technology. We like to talk to the ones that let's say are in the capacity also to have these discussions. Well, we should not forget the ones that maybe get lost a little bit on the way, and that we have to keep these ones also in the team, in the group, and keep the discussion up with them. And what our customers are still and we're facing all the years is the fact that IT systems, of course, don't change from one day to the other. We don't have always a green field. We have a brown field with all heterogeneous situations and infrastructure. And this increases the complexity of our customers' infrastructure immensely. So we have to be able to keep the customer the information they need. And we always have to ask ourselves, are we paying attention to what is happening at the customer side? Because this is actually the most important part. We come with all these technologies, we come with all our ideas and try to convince them to move from version A to version B. But still we have to pay attention to our customers' needs. So you all guys remember these, well, I wouldn't call them silos, but all these different levels that our customers are somewhere in between. So we started with the situation as an infrastructure or IT company that has a certain IT infrastructure with, let's say, maturity level 1. Then the customer tries to follow our journey and moving up the maturity level. And the way we actually try to convince our customers, to show them, look, this is the situation you are right now. And if you want to keep up with your competitors, if you want to continue to grow, then you have to change from one maturity level to the other. Regardless how you actually call them, the customer is always somewhere in between. So whenever a customer achieves one level, or let's say has settled in a certain maturity level, they have their infrastructure running, everything seems to work, they're in control of their infrastructure and their processes, and suddenly the need is there to step up to the next maturity level. And what we actually have to face if we step into the shoes of our customer is to understand that from their point of view, there's a huge gap. they actually might feel pretty secure and maybe very comfortable in the maturity level they currently are. So for them, there's a huge gap in between leaving their comfort zone and now doing all the work around starting a new project, starting new processes, talking again with all the software vendors to update and to step up to a new level. So what is meant here by saying mind the gap is actually the fact that for the customer, there is a huge gap. And this gap does not only involve technology, it also involves having the motivation and creating the motivation to step from one situation to the other. And never forget, I mean, all these projects are things that customers have to do beside their daily work. So for the customer, the whole situation looks like, well, I'm now a maturity level 1. I have control over my IT. And they notice, especially with VMworld the last few years, that everything is moving into cloud. Everything's being around software as a service, a platform as a service. And the customer has to ask themselves, or they actually do that, what happens to my IT? What happens to my environment? What happens to my team? And will I keep control over my IT if this moves, let's say, into the cloud over the next years? Of course, we have different types of customers. We have the customers that, regardless of where the IT is, they, of course, have the situation that they don't need to fear about their jobs, that they don't need to think of changing or losing their opportunities or their career opportunities. So keeping that in mind, we always have to look at the situation that our customers have and understanding how their motivation is from the mindset of, or the question they have, do I keep control over my IT into, okay, what is going to happen? So having a more deeper look into all that, what is actually meant here by VUCA is this volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous situation. And if you look at our customer, and especially the customer that think, okay, or that are a bit afraid and are worried of how they should actually keep control over their IT, what does a customer, what makes him actually change from seeing the whole processes, the whole change in IT, from seeing it as a risk and to understanding the chance that this might have? Because what we always keep in mind, or what we always have in mind, is when we help our customers in, let's say, sourcing their daily jobs away into, let's say, technology, so that they can actually free up their time to do the cool stuff, to do the project stuff, to do all the future forward task. This is something that we actually claim, and that's the idea that we have, but we actually never know if customers really react this way and what their consequences of moving their IT into the cloud actually is. So that we have to understand what makes our customer move from seeing this situation from a risk perspective into a positive opportunity for them. And what makes them actually change is the mindset. So you have different customers. Everyone knows that. You have the customers that already put the next upgrade into production without even testing. And we have the other ones. You have the ones that are more fearful, that are more conservative, and are not really the ones that jump up front, are more the ones that wait, let all the other customers do the testing and the production testing first and try to use them before they step up. And what actually is something that we notice when we deal with our customers, that all of them, they have a different attitude, and therefore they also have a different behavior. And what does that actually mean? It means that the customer has a different origin and the customer is a different type of person. So in order to understand this, we have to sit together with the customer. We maybe have to let go from all that technical content and start to understand how they really work, how they really behave, how they are from the personal opinion, what type of person they are. Are they more a techie? Is that a techie person? Is that a more conservative person? Is that a team lead, someone who's more into relationship management? And so this is something we have to maybe concentrate a little bit more in the future, and then actually be able also to understand their behavior. And there's actually two types of people, two types of behavior, which is actually called transformation management. We have the one thing that makes people jump from one side of the river to the other one, which is actually something that you need, this motivation you need to close this gap, to leave your comfort zone, to start something new, to start a new project. And this motivation is done in two ways. You either have the person that you have to push, that you have to explain that they have a certain need to change things, that they have consequences if they don't change. So you have to see what type of customer you actually have. And there's also the opposite type of customer that is actually motivated by being pulled and attracted by the vision that you tell them and showing them the benefits that someone has. So you have someone that is more managed by showing the consequences, someone that is more being motivated by showing the need for the change. And on the other hand, you have customers that are being more motivated by the attraction that you offer, the new functionalities, the chances and the opportunities. And this is something that we have to understand. So seeing the situation of our customers, and also not only of our customers, but also of their customers, we have to divide the challenges they have into, let's say, two aspects. On the one hand, we have to understand what's the customer's pain, not only on the technical point of view, but also on a process point of view, on their daily opinion, how are they seeing their own future in the company, what's their vision, what are their goals, and what do they want to achieve. And so we have also the chance to understand their gains and to highlight their gains, and also be in a more in-depth conversation with a customer. We have to understand their use cases, not only from a technical point of view, but also from a process point of view. We have to understand their daily jobs that need to be done, and understand, okay, what are their problems with these daily jobs they had to cope with. So design thinking, and of course, saying that we don't have the chance to go into the whole process and the whole insides of design thinking with only, let's say, 30 minutes, but at least my idea was to create a bit more awareness about the whole design thinking process, because it's a very holistic method. It's all about the mindset. It's a process that teams actually use to understand the user and to really challenge the assumptions that we have and redefine problems. And it's all about creating innovative and out-of-the-box solutions. So what's the mindset that you have to incorporate, that you really have to feel comfortable with? Is, first of all, always putting the customer in the center. Understanding who are the team players, who are the stakeholders at the customer side. Try to be curious. So try to really understand and emphasize with your customer and understand their daily challenges, also maybe on a more personal basis. we have to accept that the customer faces a lot of complexity. When we go to the customer, we see all technology, we see all the greatness behind it, but the customer does not only have VMware, they have a lot of other companies around and other vendors. They have to incorporate in their whole journey, and this really leads to a very complex infrastructure. And what actually helps in going through all this process is to use more visualization tools, is to use tools like mind map, is to use post-it stickers, to use more whiteboarding. I think we all know the power of whiteboarding, but we should maybe use that more often and incorporate this more into our daily business. Even using now all this virtual technology, we might even have the chance to use iPads or design pads or paint pads in order to be able to visualize the conversation with the customer a bit more. And hopefully all this situation due to Corona is somewhere going to come to an end, so that we're going to be able to talk to our customers again.
I think just quickly on that point, Karin, I think everybody at VMware now has access to Miro as well.
Yes, good point.
So is that a tool you've used in the past?
This is something that I have used during the training I did, and I really think this is a very cool software. It's not only a tool, it's even more than that. It's very complex, and it gives us the chance to work like with like as you would be using paper. You can write things down, you can use post-it with different colors and put it on a type of a canvas, or you can push and pull these visualization methods around, and everyone can write at the same time. It's kind of very nice collaboration tool, which actually helps you in making the whole virtual experience more tangible. Thank you very much for that, for the idea. It's something that we're going to incorporate into the link page right at the end of the presentation. And the last thing is to understand that this whole process of design thinking is a very iterative one. So it's not something that you do once, it's something that you should be doing all the time until your customer gets very comfortable and very used to it, because that's on the way that they're going to be more open-minded, and they're going to understand that all of the ideas are very welcome. So if we have a look at the process of design thinking itself, and this is only a very high level look into that, because this is something that can be even more in depth, is it all starts with the user, and in this case with us as a technical account manager. And design thinking is all about talking about problems. This is something that we try to avoid always the last years. You don't talk about problems, you have challenges, you have issues. But design thinking is really talking about problems. There's something called the problem space, which this is a kind of a virtual or creative space where everyone incorporated into that brainstorming session is invited to talk about the problems that they face. And our job is to understand, is to open the space, to let everyone talk about their challenges, their problems they're facing, is also to observe how do customers cope with their challenges throughout the whole day. We as a TAM, we have the chance to go to the customer, to spend the day with them, and to analyze and to observe how they handle their issues. And this gives us a lot of knowledge, a lot of understanding, so that we have the chance, after opening up all the space, talking to everyone, doing brainstorming sessions, we can then start to conclude together with the customers, so that we can incorporate everyone's opinion. We use data from websites, from press releases to analyze, and then we conclude and sit together with the customer and prioritize the problems and define the problems, and which ones are the ones that are more complex and should be solved right at the beginning. And Having done that, you then start the next iteration and you start opening up the solution space. And this is then the point where you actually start talking about solutions, where you start being creative again, where you start defining ideas, how to solve the problems with what kind of solutions do you have. And this is again something where you can be very creative. It's all about, let's say, letting go, letting the customer go, having ideas, and then at the end starting a testing process, a proof of concept process, and all this again starts being iterative. If the process does not work, if the proof of concept does not work, go back again, start creating new solutions and testing it all over again. And again, don't forget to visualize the things, visualize the ideas, to at the end come to a solution that is feasible for everyone, and where the customer really feels like he is being part of the whole creative process. And it's not a solution that we come and say, oh yeah, you have this problem, then you need this solution, but instead it's something where the customer has a very, very active role, and where everyone at the customer has this active role. People that have a relation to the technology, and others that also don't have a relation to the technology. So wrapping up the principles of design thinking, in the first place, it's all about understanding your customer. It's from your side as a technical account manager, it's about sticking to the right mindset. Go to your customer, go open-minded, go customer-centered, sit together with them, drink a coffee, ask them how their day was, how their day started. I mean, for sure, a lot of you guys already do this, but maybe we should do this more, let's say, and sharpen our awareness about this, so that we do this in a more proper way, or also in a way that we try to understand the customer in a more intense way. And then follow the process. Establish a process of creativity at your customer, so that when you go to the customer and you tell them, okay, we're going to do a brainstorming session, they actually know that it's going to be creative, it's going to involve Post-its and standing up, going to whiteboard, sitting down, discussing, so that they feel very comfortable in really sharing their thoughts and sharing their ideas and problems. The benefit for us, so coming close to the end, the idea and the benefit is to really understand our customers' needs, to be more creative, to allow more creativity, to stick to a process, so that your customer always is aware that when you start discussing or trying to create solutions, it's going to include a whole brainstorming session, as I already said, with a lot of creativity and a lot of talking and bringing up ideas, and include all team members to increase the acceptance. I mean, we all know that you have to incorporate people. There are a lot of stakeholders at the customer side, and it's really important to have everyone on board and leave no one behind. So thank you from my side for your attention, for your time. And with that, I would like to give back, I guess, to Simon or to James. Thank you very much.
Karin.
Perfect. Are there any questions for Karin while I'm just setting up here? You're all very quiet this morning.
I guess there will be some more questions right at the end or during the week.
Yeah,
maybe.
saving them for the end, or saving them for email, perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to you today about how we go about making cups of tea, and how we can build a map about that and why that might be important. So one of the aspects of design thinking that Karin was just speaking around was around visualization. And what I'm going to talk about and what I'm going to build on there is with Wardley mapping. We have a method that we can use to help visualize entire businesses and services. to help build not only our situational awareness, but also share that with our colleagues, share that with our customers, and to highlight areas for potential evolution, potential improvement. Can I just ask, has anyone come across Wardley mapping before? Silence would indicate no, so okay, fair enough. A Wardley map is in essence a map of the components needed to deliver a business or service, and this will become a bit clearer as we go through the T shop. Each component is classified by the value it has to the service delivery and by the maturity of that component, ranging from maybe a custom-made commodity, custom-made piece, to a commodity service that you can buy. Components are connected on a graph showing how they are linked and how they interact. I came across Wardley mapping through my work with the UK government, in particular the government digital service. They use it extensively for strategic planning and identifying targets for modernisation and improvement. And this has been further extended and used quite widely within the UN as well, to map out and to really sort of target particular areas. So one of the areas that I was speaking about just earlier this week is every service within the UK had its own system for looking up postcodes within the UK. The government digital service mapped this out and decided that actually what they needed to do was to target that, create a centralized service that everybody could use to look up postcodes and addresses within the UK. And they did that, they developed it, they rolled it out, and the result was a saving of millions for UK government, which, okay, just goes to highlight some of the power of this particular mapping technique. With any mapping technique, placement of components on the map is subjective, but actually some of the best value that we get from this is from the conversation that we generate with our customers or with our colleagues. With that, I am going to move on to the tea shop. So, how many times have you heard a similar statement to the above? Simon Wardley is on Twitter, by the way. You can follow him at that Twitter tag there. I suggest you do. He'll often be found having a conversation with X. And as you can see here, you can see, you know, I know you say it's just a commodity, but we've decided to custom build this piece of software because we think it creates a better brand experience. Okay, do you know how much that's costing? It's just engineering time. How many times have people on this call heard that kind of statement? You know, it's just engineering time. It's just you know, someone in the server room who's got to do X, Y, Z. It's just this. It's just that. And we're going to demonstrate some of this from our mapping perspective. So here we are. Here's our first map. So we're pretending, if you recall, that we're in the business of being a tea shop and we're selling to the public. Here is our basic map that highlights the value chain of a company that's selling tea, or the company that is selling tea. What we can see is that at the top of the map, we have what we refer to as our anchor point or our focus, which is the business that obviously that needs to sell cups of tea, and the public that we hope has the desire to drink those cups of tea that we're making. The map has the basic components involved. And the first thing that you do when creating a map like this is you share it. No one person is likely to have a complete picture. Can anyone hazard a guess or make a suggestion as to what we might be missing on this map? I know I'm awful and I am asking people for responses. Okay. How about staff? We don't quite have robots yet, so who is going to be serving the tea? So what I'm kind of saying here is that we each only have, you know, maybe part of the picture from the map. What maps are good at is helping us communicate and actually create and gain a better map from the conversation that we generate. So here we go, we've improved our map, and as I said, we don't quite have robots everywhere, but you know, maybe we want to explore. robots. We want to anticipate future changes of staff becoming robots. So we can discuss that. We might have a disagreement. A map isn't right, true, or perfect, but it is a way for each of us to challenge assumptions and improve the collective understanding of the landscape we're operating in. Is there anything else on this map that you know kind of jumps out and you think is maybe out of place? We can see on the right hand side there that most of what we're building or we're utilizing as products or commodities, but the kettle for some reason is custom built. Now why is that kettle custom built? Why is the tea shop building its own custom kettles? That seems like an area that we need to understand better, and it seems like something that the maps help to highlight, and that, you know, maybe we could look to investigate why the value of those custom built kettles, and also start looking at what it means to utilize standard kettles instead. So firstly, what we need to do is we need to work out how much those custom kettles cost. Because we're building out a value chain here, we can also have a conversation with our finance teams, and we can start to add some metrics, you know, and on each of these nodes, we can start to capture stock of capital and direction of that capital. So we've added some measurable values to our company's value chain here, and we can see we can build, you know, a very basic income statement around a cup of tea. What we can see here is that the kettle has a, you know, that custom branded kettle is costing us 10 cents, 10 pence, $10, whatever we want to use, from an operating profit of 15 cents, which is 2/3. So probably what we need to do is have a much more in-depth conversation about why are we getting that custom kettle, this is what it's costing, and should we look at changing that? And of course, again, through mapping, we could look at highlighting what that looks like. So we can go back, we can see the look at the custom cost of building versus the depreciation of the kettle versus a more industrialized component. We can see that, you know, a standard kettle has a depreciation value of, say, 1 versus the custom kettle's depreciation value of 10. So we can look at the difference between those two and report back and say, look, that brand exclusivity or whatever, it's costing us, you know, 9 or whatever, 9 cents, pence, whatever. Basically almost twice the profit of what we're doing. So we'd have to question why that's the case. And it also gives us an area to suggest that potential changes are made. Okay, any questions?
I completely understand the concept and what you're getting at here, Simon. So perhaps, you know, obviously we're talking about kettles, but it could be software or something that our customers have bought, but there was a reason at that time that no longer exists. So perhaps they were driven to that decision at that time due to a shortage in people who could deploy
exactly
a product or whatever it might be, but that might not necessarily be the case today.
Exactly that. So, you know, decisions are made, and as Karin was saying, we don't often get the opportunity to deploy into a greenfield environment. So, you know, decisions were made in a brownfield environment. We can map out those environments and identify areas that we can target for potential evolution or improvement, right? Like you say, a decision might have been made to build those custom kettles at that time for reason X, Y, Z, which was perfectly valid at the time. But, you know, now looking at it and reviewing it, we can put some clear rationale as to why we need to target that area for evolution.
And I think it also gives you the chance to if you visualize something like that, and then you could actually think of, okay, we have 2 options. On the one hand, you can reduce the cost of this kettle, or on the other hand, you could raise the price of the cup of tea because the kettle makes the tea so exclusive, and you have a unique selling opportunity or a unique selling point. so that the whole exclusivity just is higher due to that specific custom-made aspect. It can be kettle, it can be whatever. But at least with this, you see that you have a choice. You could either tweak it this way or the other way.
Yeah, you can create those options. So, following on, and again, Mr. Wardley is often found talking to X, and the conversation continues. As kind of James almost hinted at there. That's all very good, but what have teas and cups of teas and kettles got to do with building software or managing infrastructure? Well, of course, we can take what we've done from a mapping a cup of tea standpoint, and then let's apply those principles to say, let's pretend we're an online taxi firm, and we've built our user application using functions. And you know what? To make life easy, we're going to create the map in the same structure as we've created the cup of tea map. Again, we can see from the map that the map itself is drawing our attention to the element of custom code, the car get profiles code. Is that custom code, again, worth almost twice the operating profit to the organization? And having mapped that out and reported on that, it's probably worth asking that question, right? So now we can have that conversation and we can say, is the exclusivity around that car get profiles code, is it worth that operating profit? Is this an area that we should look to target to evolve and move towards a area of commodity or commoditization? Or is this something that, as Karin said, you want to raise your prices for to cover the costs or X, Y, Z? Okay. And I can hear the collectiveness here from everybody on the call who's saying, why is this useful to me? So to give you an example, this is how I use it with my customer. So my customer is public sector. I work with UK police forces, and I use this method to help map out the complexity of the landscape to provide both my customers and my account team with opportunities that we can target to say to a customer, hey, look at this. This is something that VMware can do to improve your current environment, but also point out to the customer and say, hey, you know what? This is something that we think you should be looking to focus on, that we think you should be looking to target for improvement. So if I just build out this map very quickly, my anchor point for this very generic map here is the police officer. And the police officer has multiple services that they interact with directly. So, for example, they have their core applications, they have their portable device, productivity tooling, identity management, etc., etc. And obviously we need to join those up. But that isn't the extent of our map here. What we also have is we have a range of services, infrastructure, and processes that support those elements that the police officer is directly involved with. So we can put those on the map, and then again, we can link those up further down to our, our very sort of lowest level of commoditization here, or, the lowest visibility to the police officer themselves. And again, drawing them up. But what it does is it gives us visibility, and it allows us to look at, where can we attack, where can we evolve. Further to that, if we look at policing applications as our anchor point here, we can see that there are various elements that the policing application needs to service it. It needs an operating system, it needs a device, it needs network connectivity, wide area network connectivity. Hopefully none of the language that I'm using here is particularly complex to understand. But we can take that sort of mapping of the environment as it is now, and we can go through an iterative process of conversation with internal guys to see what the art of the possible is, and also conversation with the customers as well to understand where they want to get to think about, okay, this is potentially a vision of the future that you could look at implementing. And guess what? We have the tools and the capability to take you on this journey and help you understand what that journey is. So that's just a little bit of a insight into how I've used this particular technique with my customer. And with that, I will say thank you and leave you with a couple of links there to some blog posts from myself and also the full book from Simon that introduces Wardley mapping as a concept and goes into it in much more detail than I have in the last 20 minutes or so. So thank you for that. I'll pass you back to James.
Thank you very much, Simon. That was really interesting. Does anybody have any questions for Simon or Karin? You can post in the chat or unmute. No? Well, thank you very much all for your attendance. I really appreciate it. Simon, Karin, danke. So thank you. It was a really great session. Really enjoyed it. And I'll stop the recording. Thank you.
Thank you.